This knot is called a square knot, and it's an excellent example of a class of knots that are called bends because they bend or tie two pieces of line together. So you can tell that you've got a square knot because it has this really nice parallel structure. It's got one loop and another loop. There's no extra crosses. The two loops slide nicely once you've tied the knot correctly. One thing you want to watch out for with the square knot is because of that sliding, if you tie this knot in a place where it is hanging in midair and it's not under a consistent strain or tension, it can eventually just work itself loose. So make sure you always tie a square knot either around an object or in a situation where it's going to be under a steady, consistent amount of strain or weight or pull on the knot, right? So to tie a square knot, you want to put the right end on top of the left, wrap it around like you're tying your shoes, and then put the left end on top of the right, and again, wrap it around like you're tying your shoes. Pull all the ends nice and snug, and you're done. There's your square knot. There are a couple tricks that you can use if you find that you have accidentally tied a granny knot. So this is what a granny knot looks like. You can see that it doesn't have that nice sort of parallel structure. Instead of having both pieces of line here on the same side of this loop, I've got one on the bottom of the loop and one on the top, right? So that's how I know that I've tied a granny knot. These can fail. They can also just tighten down so much that they're impossible to untie. So you don't want to tie a granny knot by accident. There are a couple tricks to avoid that. My favorite method is I don't even really pay attention when I do that first pass. And then I just look at which piece of line is on top at this point. If this piece of line is on top and this one is underneath, I know the one that's on top needs to be on top when I cross them the second time. So that's my preferred method for getting a square knot every time and not a granny knot. You can also just remember that it has to be opposite of what you started with. So if you start with right over left, like we did the first time we tied this knot, then you need to go left over right the next time. If you start with left over right, then you need to go right over left the next time, which is really just another way of saying the same piece of rope needs to be on top every time you cross them, right? So if you started out with the right hand piece on top and you wrapped it around, then it's going to be the right hand piece on top again, but now it's over on the left side. So that's how you end up with right over left, followed by left over right.